The Orion Expanse had become a place of fire and ruin. For centuries, two great powers, the Archon Dominion and the Velan Assembly, fought without pause. Their fleets filled the stars, their armies stormed across planets, and their weapons left scars upon entire worlds. The war was older than the lives of most who fought in it. Generations were born into conflict and died without ever knowing peace. The Archon Dominion was a proud empire of discipline and order. Their fleets moved with mechanical precision, and their soldiers obeyed without question. They believed in strength above all, and they refused to yield. The Velan Assembly, in contrast, was an alliance of ambitious clans. They prized cunning and strategy, and their leaders were as fierce as their warriors. The two sides were evenly matched. Each victory was met with a counterattack. Each world taken was later lost again. Across the galaxy, other species watched in despair. The war did not remain between Archon and Velan. The flames spread outward. Neutral colonies were drawn in, their resources seized, their people forced to choose sides. Trade routes collapsed, science slowed, and countless lives were wasted in a struggle that brought nothing but destruction. Many races begged for peace, but no one could force it. At last, a great galactic council was formed. Dozens of species gathered on a neutral world, seeking some way to end the endless war. The chamber was vast, built from crystal and steel, shining with the light of 100 stars. Yet inside, the mood was heavy. Delegates spoke with weary voices, their words echoing across the hall. One elder delegate from the Sirak people rose and said, "For 300 years we have begged them to stop. Yet Archon listens only to its pride, and Velan listens only to its anger. How long can the galaxy bleed before we all fall into silence?" Another delegate from the gentle Milan answered with sorrow, "We have offered treaties. We have offered wealth. We have offered shared worlds. But they refuse. They live only for battle. Perhaps nothing can end this war." Silence filled the chamber. Every race feared the same truth. The war seemed eternal. The Archon Dominion and the Velan Assembly would fight until the galaxy itself was consumed. But on that day, a new voice entered the council. It was the voice of a young race, small in number compared to the mighty empires. They were humans. Many in the council barely knew them. Some thought of them as untested wanderers, too new to the stars to understand the weight of such matters. The human envoy stepped forward. He was not dressed in grand robes of power, nor did he carry the symbols of a vast empire. His clothing was simple, his words plain. Yet his eyes were steady and his voice carried strength. He said, "For centuries you have watched and waited. For centuries the same battle has been fought again and again. Archon and Velan are locked in a cycle they cannot break. If left alone, they will never stop. But we are not here to offer words. We are here to offer something different." The chamber stirred. Some laughed softly. A delegate from the proud Talari leaned forward and said, "What can you offer, human? You have no fleets that rival Archon. You have no armies that match Velan. You are young in the stars. Do not speak of what you cannot do." The human envoy did not answer in anger. He only smiled slightly. "It is true. We are young. We do not have the oldest fleets. We do not have the largest worlds. But we do not need those things. What we bring is not more soldiers or more ships. We bring machines. Machines built not for pride or honor, but for survival. Machines that fight in ways others cannot predict. Machines that do not tire and do not yield. Machines that will not let this war continue." The chamber grew silent. No one had expected such words. The other species looked at one another, uncertain. Was this arrogance or was it truth? The Sirak elder spoke again, his voice calm. "Human, many have promised to end this war and all have failed. Why should we believe you?" The envoy answered simply. "You should not believe my words. You should believe what you will see. If you wish, we will show you. Not tomorrow, not years from now. We will show you soon. We have prepared for this day because we too have watched this war. We know what must be done." The chamber echoed with whispers. Some delegates mocked the humans as dreamers. Others wondered if perhaps there was a chance, however small, that this new race could succeed where all others had failed, and so, with doubt and curiosity in equal measure, the council agreed to witness what humanity would bring. The stage was set. For the first time in centuries, a new force would enter the endless war, and though none yet knew it, the balance of the galaxy was about to change. The humans would unleash their war machines, and the fire that no one could stop might at last be extinguished. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so restless. After the human envoy spoke, silence filled the air. For a long moment, no one dared to answer. The words were too bold, too unexpected. The Archon Dominion's representative finally broke the silence. He was tall, clad in silver armor that shone in the light of the chamber. His voice carried pride as sharp as a blade. "We will not yield. We will not listen to a young race that has no place in this war. The Dominion has fought for generations and no one has broken us. Why should we fear you?" The Valen Assembly's delegate rose next. Her scaled skin glimmered like polished stone and her eyes narrowed with disdain. "Nor will the Assembly bow to a new species that dares to speak as if it holds power. We do not fear human machines. We do not fear human words. Our war is our own and no outsider can end it." Gasps spread across the chamber. The words were defiant, filled with the same pride and fury that had fueled their war for centuries. Many council members lowered their heads in despair. Once again, peace seemed impossible. But the human envoy stood calmly. His voice was steady, his tone without arrogance. "It is not fear I ask of you. It is understanding. You believe your war cannot end. You believe no one can stop you. But the truth is that this war has already destroyed more than either of you will ever gain. The galaxy suffers because of your pride. We will not allow it to continue. Not for our sake, not for yours, but for all who live beneath the same stars." The chamber stirred again. The words carried no threats, yet they carried weight. Some species nodded quietly. Others whispered in doubt. The elder delegate of the Serac people raised his long, slender hand. His eyes, old and weary, studied the human envoy with care. "Your words are strong, young one. But words do not win wars. Words do not bring peace. Tell us, human, what will you do that no one else could do?" The envoy answered with calm certainty. "We will fight, but not as you have fought. You all wage war with fleets that clash in lines, with armies that march in formation, with strategies that follow patterns. The Archon know your patterns. The Valen know your patterns. You bleed one another because you mirror one another. We are different. Our machines are not bound by your rules. They adapt. They change. They think as we think, fast, creative, and relentless. That is what we will bring." A low murmur spread through the council. The words unsettled many. The Talari delegate leaned forward, his feathers ruffled in skepticism. "You speak of machines as if they are alive. Are they not only tools? Are they not only steel and circuits? What makes them so different?" The envoy's eyes glimmered with quiet pride. "They are built from our spirit. When humans fight, we do not follow only logic. We use imagination. We find paths where none exist. We turn weakness into strength. Our machines carry this same spirit. That is why they will end what none of you could end." For the first time, silence in the chamber was not filled with despair, but with thought. Delegates leaned toward one another, speaking in hushed tones. Doubt remained, but so did curiosity. The Serac elder spoke again, his voice gentle but firm. "If what you say is true, then show us. Show us your machines, human. Let us see with our own eyes before we choose to believe." The envoy nodded. "You shall see. We are ready." And so the council agreed to a demonstration. It was decided that all would gather on a neutral world, safe and untouched by war. There the humans would unveil the machines they spoke of. The date was set, and the council dispersed with heavy hearts yet restless anticipation. The Archon and Valen delegates left in anger, their pride wounded. They whispered among themselves, each claiming they would not be impressed. Yet in secret, both sides felt unease. They had watched the humans grow in silence, building their fleets, studying the war. Preparing for a day such as this, they wondered if perhaps the young race carried something dangerous, something neither empire could control. When the day of the demonstration came, the skies above the neutral world filled with ships from every species, fleets of crystal, fleets of steel, fleets that shimmered with light or cloaked themselves in shadows. They arrived not to fight but to witness. The planet below was vast and open, a land of wide plains and clear skies chosen so no harm would come to innocent lives. At last, the human fleet appeared. It was not the largest nor the most polished, but it moved with quiet purpose. Their ships were dark and sturdy, built for function rather than pride. From them descended shapes that shook the ground as they landed. The galaxy had gathered. The council had gathered. And now humanity would show the machines that carried their spirit. Machines that would decide the fate of the endless war. The crowd waited in silence, their eyes fixed upon the field. The moment had come. Humanity was ready to unleash what it had promised. The neutral world chosen for the demonstration was called Silora. It was a quiet planet of wide plains and open skies. Its surface had no cities, no armies, and no scars of war. The Council had chosen it carefully, for they wished to see without fear of harm. On the day of the event, the skies above Silora filled with ships from every corner of the galaxy. The Serac brought vessels shaped like long silver spears. The Talari arrived in feathered craft that glided as if carried by winds. The Mylan appeared in gentle ships that glowed with soft light. Even smaller races who had no part in war came to see. All wished to witness what humanity would reveal. The Archon Dominion came as well, their black ships lined in order, each moving with the precision of soldiers. The Valan assembly followed, their fleet broad and sharp, wings of steel spread across the sky. Though they hated each other, they set aside their fight for this single day. Both sides were certain that humans could not surprise them. At last, the human fleet arrived. Compared to the grand ships of other species, the human vessels looked plain. They were dark and strong, built not with elegance but with purpose. Some laughed at their appearance, whispering that the young race had come only to embarrass itself. But others, especially the Serac elder, watched with careful eyes. The human envoy's voice carried across the field. His words were simple, spoken through the great transmitters so that every delegate and every commander could hear. We are here to show what we promised. You have seen wars fought in lines and formations. You have seen battles decided by numbers alone. But today you will see something different. Today you will see how humans fight. As his words ended, the first war machine descended from the sky. It was vast, a towering figure of steel and strength. Its feet shook the ground as it landed. Its arms were heavy with weapons, yet its movements were smooth, almost graceful. The crowd gasped in awe. More machines followed. Some were tall like giants, others smaller and faster. They came in many shapes, each built for a purpose. They did not stand in perfect lines, nor did they march with rigid order. Instead, they spread across the plain like hunters preparing for a chase. The Archon delegate spoke with disdain. Impressive size, but nothing more. Machines are tools, not warriors. Numbers and discipline will always crush them, the Valan delegate added with a hiss. If these are the human secrets, then the galaxy has wasted its time. But their words were cut short as the demonstration began. From the horizon came targets prepared by the Council. Drones, ships, and armored constructs built to mimic the fleets of both Archon and Valan. They were many in number, strong and fast, meant to test the machines with real challenge. The human war machines moved at once. They did not wait for orders in long chains of command. They adapted on their own. When the first wave of drones came, the largest machine raised its arm and fired a beam that cut through 10 targets at once. At the same time, smaller machines darted between enemies, striking from angles no fleet commander would expect. The crowd leaned forward, stunned. The machines did not follow one path. Each acted as if guided by its own mind, yet together they worked in harmony. When one enemy broke through, 2 machines closed the gap without pause. When a formation tried to surround them, the machines shifted like flowing water, breaking the trap before it could close. The Archon delegate frowned. He saw something strange. The human machines did not fight with perfect order. They left gaps, they moved with what looked like chaos. Yet somehow that chaos turned into victory. Their weakness became strength. No fleet could predict their actions. The Valan delegate's eyes widened as she watched a smaller machine fall. Instead of retreating, it used its own collapse as a trap, pulling enemies close before detonating with a flash that cleared the field. She whispered under her breath, "They fight as if war itself bends to them." The Serac elder smiled faintly. He understood now. Humans had not built machines of pride or tradition. They had built machines that carried their spirit. The spirit of survival, of imagination, of never accepting defeat. When the battle ended, the plain was silent. The human machines stood tall, their frames marked with fire but unbroken. Not a single target remained. The envoy's voice rose once more. These are not tools of conquest. These are not symbols of empire. They are born of necessity. We did not build them to rule. We built them because we had to survive. And with them, we will end the war that no one else could stop. The chamber of delegates erupted in voices. Some cried out in disbelief. Others cheered with hope. Even those who doubted could not deny what they had seen. For the first time in centuries, there was a force the Archon and the Velan could not ignore. For the first time in centuries, there was a chance that the endless war could be broken. And at the heart of it all stood humanity, the youngest of the stars, ready to change the fate of the galaxy. News of the human demonstration spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The images of towering machines moving with speed and creativity no fleet could match were shown on every world. Some species called it a miracle. Others whispered in fear. For the first time in centuries, there was a spark of hope that the endless war might end. But hope was not enough. Words and displays were one thing. The real test would come when human machines faced the true fire of the Archon Dominion and the Velan Assembly. Both empires were insulted by the show on Silora. Their pride was wounded. They would not believe until they saw humanity in battle. The Council begged humans not to enter the war directly, warning that to do so was to invite destruction. Yet the envoy only replied with calm determination. If we do nothing, the war will continue forever. If we act, there is a chance to end it. We are ready to pay that price. And so, humanity prepared. The first battle would take place on the world of Trassel, a planet already broken by years of war. Once it had been rich in forests and oceans. Now it was scarred with craters, its skies filled with smoke. The Archon held one side of the planet. The Velan held the other. For decades they had fought across the ruins, pushing back and forth without victory. When the humans arrived, both empires thought it was a trick. Their commanders laughed and told their soldiers not to fear. "They are young," said the Archon general. "They will learn what real war is." The Velan leader was just as certain. Machines cannot win battles. They are only toys of a proud race. The laughter ended when the first machines touched the ground. From human carriers above the planet, the war machines descended like thunder. Their steps shook the broken soil. Their weapons glowed with quiet energy. Yet it was not their size alone that struck fear. It was the way they moved. Not like soldiers bound in line. Not like fleets bound in order. They moved like hunters, each one alive with purpose. The Archon forces struck first. Their tanks rolled forward in perfect formation. Their airships fired from above, filling the sky with burning light. They expected the humans to meet them head-on. Instead, the machines scattered. Some darted between ruined towers, vanishing from sight. Others leapt across the field, striking from angles the Archon had not guarded. In moments, the formation broke. The Dominion soldiers shouted in confusion. Their commanders barked orders, but the machines did not fight as expected. One giant machine drew the attention of a dozen tanks, holding them in place, while smaller units swept behind to strike their weak points. Explosions lit the ground. The Velan forces then joined the battle, eager to claim their own glory. They surged with sharp wings of metal, their warriors screaming as they charged. Yet the machines did not falter. One human war machine leapt into the air, higher than any thought possible, crashing into the Velan ranks with a strike that shattered their lines. Others fired beams that curved in mid-flight, bending around defenses as if the weapons themselves were alive. The Council watched from orbit, their ships circling high above. Delegates who had once doubted now leaned forward in shock. The Serac elder whispered softly, "They fight as they promised. No order, no pattern, only endless change. This is why the others could not stop them." The Archon general clenched his fists as his formation collapsed. He had trained his soldiers to obey without question, to fight with absolute order. Against any other enemy, that order was strength. Against humans, it was weakness. Every time he issued a command, the machines had already shifted, breaking his plan before it began. The Velan leader felt the same frustration. She had built her forces on cunning, on traps and feints. But the humans did not fall into them. They turned traps against their makers, twisting every clever move into failure. The battle lasted hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. When the smoke cleared, the ruins of Trassel were silent. The Archon and Velan still lived, but their armies had been broken. Their soldiers looked to the skies with fear, whispering of the human machines that had moved like shadows in thunder. From orbit, the envoy's voice spoke once more, reaching both empires. "You have fought for centuries and gained nothing. You believed no one could stop you. Now you see the truth. We do not come to destroy you. We come to end the war. If you continue, we will fight again, and each time we will break the chains of your pride. Choose peace, or face what you saw today." For the first time in generations, silence followed. The Archon and Valen commanders had no answer. Their pride was wounded, their certainty broken. The war that had seemed eternal now had a new force pressing against it. The machines stood tall across the ruined plains of Trassel, glowing in the smoke. They were more than weapons. They were symbols of a young race that dared to do what no one else could. Humanity had entered the war, and nothing would ever be the same again. The victory on Trassel sent a shockwave across the galaxy. For the first time in living memory, the Archon Dominion and the Valen Assembly had both been forced to retreat. They had not been defeated by each other, but by the humans, the youngest race in the stars. News spread faster than light itself. On countless worlds, people whispered of towering machines that fought like no army had ever fought before. Some called them guardians, others called them monsters, but no one could deny the truth. The endless war had changed forever. The Galactic Council gathered again. Delegates spoke with restless voices. Many were filled with hope. The Mylan asked, "If the humans can keep pushing, perhaps this war will finally end." The Talari wondered aloud, "Or will the humans become the new power we must fear?" Only the Serac elder remained calm. He said, "They are not conquerors. They are survivors. Their machines do not carry pride. They carry will. That is their strength." Meanwhile, the humans prepared for the next step. Their envoy knew that a single victory was not enough. "We must break the cycle," he said to his commanders. "If we stop now, the empires will rise again. We must show them that their war has no future." The target was a system called Drelan. It was a place of constant battle, a crossroad between Archon and Valen space. For centuries, the two empires had fought over it, trading control of the worlds like pieces on a board. Entire cities had been rebuilt and destroyed many times over. To win Drelan was to strike at the heart of the endless war. When the humans arrived, the sky was already burning. Archon fleets clashed with Valen wings above the largest planet. Thousands of ships fired in perfect lines, beams and missiles crossing in endless patterns. To the Council observers, it looked the same as every battle before it. Two powers locked in a fight without victory. But then, the human fleet appeared. It did not spread in wide lines. It did not form perfect shapes. Instead, it moved like a living storm. Carriers shifted positions with speed that confused enemy sensors. Machines dropped into battle zones where no one expected them. The Archon general ordered his ships to fire at once, hoping to crush the newcomers with sheer numbers. But the humans did not stand still. Their machines danced through the fire, changing course with impossible speed. Where the Archon fired, only empty space remained. Where they thought victory was near, a hidden strike came from behind. The Valen commander tried to use cunning traps, drawing the humans into a narrow corridor between asteroids. But the humans did not fall for it. Instead, their machines split into two groups, one diving into the trap while the other circled around. When the Valen closed their jaws, they found themselves surrounded. The machines fought not like tools, but like extensions of human thought. They worked together in ways that no program could predict. A smaller unit would leap onto the back of an enemy ship, disabling its shields while a larger one struck the final blow. Drones swarmed across the field, not in simple swarms, but in shifting waves, breaking formations and leaving the enemy scattered. From the council ships above, the delegates stared in awe. The Talari whispered, "They move with chaos." The Serac elder answered, "No, not chaos, freedom. That is what makes them strong." Hours passed, and the great fleets of Archon and Valen began to falter. Commanders shouted for control, but control was lost. The more they tried to fight with old patterns, the more the machines broke those patterns apart. On the ground below, the war was no different. Archon soldiers held bunkers. Valen forces stormed trenches, but the machines moved between them like shadows. They were not bound to one side of the field. They struck where they were needed most. One moment they were breaking a siege. The next they were tearing through a column of tanks miles away. The tide was turning, and everyone knew it. At last, both Archon and Valen forces pulled back. For the first time in centuries, neither side claimed Drelan. The system was left in human hands. From the human flagship, the envoy spoke once more, his voice calm but strong. "This war has lasted too long. Every world it touches is scarred. Every life it takes is wasted. Today you have seen what will happen if you continue. We will not allow your pride to burn the galaxy any longer." The council transmitted his words across the stars. Entire populations cheered. Children born in war saw hope for the first time. Even soldiers of Archon and Valon, hardened by centuries of fighting, felt doubt grow in their hearts. The endless war had not ended yet, but it was no longer endless. For the first time there was a force that could break it. Humanity, with their strange machines and stranger spirit, had begun to turn the tide. The defeat at Draylen left both the Archon Dominion and the Valon Assembly in shock. For centuries they had believed themselves unstoppable. Their pride had carried them across countless worlds, and their wars had seemed eternal. Yet here they were, their fleets broken and scattered, staring at a new force that refused to follow their rules. In the halls of the Archon High Command, generals argued in loud voices. "We cannot accept this," one said. "No young race should dictate the terms of our war. We are Archon. We have never surrendered." Another general shook his head. "Our armies are failing. Every attack we make is anticipated and broken. Our ships are useless against their machines. If we continue, we will lose everything we have built." Across the galaxy in the Valon Assembly, the council chamber was filled with tension. Leaders shouted over each other, claws raking tables in anger. "The humans are clever, but they are not gods. We can still fight." A quieter voice rose, belonging to a young Valon strategist. "Every plan we make fails. Their machines move as if they can think faster than our minds. They adapt to every trap we set. If we do not stop now, the war will be lost. Not tomorrow, not next week, but completely." Both empires faced a truth they could not ignore. Their pride and history demanded one thing, yet survival demanded another. The humans, meanwhile, prepared for another demonstration. They did not seek to destroy these empires, only to show them that the war had no future unless both sides chose to end it. On the neutral world of Silora, human machines gathered once more. They stood tall and ready, not for conquest but for persuasion. The human envoy addressed both empires. His voice carried across the void, calm yet commanding. "You have fought for centuries and gained nothing. Your fleets are strong, your warriors skilled, yet your pride blinds you. If this war continues, countless worlds will burn and countless lives will be lost. You may believe that victory is in your hands, but the galaxy itself will decide. We do not seek to conquer. We seek only to end what no one else could end." The Archon general clenched his fists, his jaw tight with anger and uncertainty. "We will not bow to words," he said. Yet even as he spoke, doubt flickered in his eyes. He had never faced an enemy that moved with such freedom, that adapted so quickly. The Valon leader paced in her chamber. "They are young. They have no history with us. Yet they have broken our fleets and humiliated our pride. What are they if not our equal in war?" Her voice was quiet, but the meaning was clear. For the first time, both empires understood that this was not a simple battle of ships and soldiers. This was a battle of will, of adaptability, of imagination, and they could not match it. Delegates from other species watched carefully. The council sent envoys to both sides, urging them to choose peace. "The humans are not your enemy," one Mylan diplomat said. "They offer a chance to end the cycle. Take it, or be destroyed by what you cannot control." The pressure grew heavier. The Archon general called his advisors together. "We have two choices," he said. "Fight and risk complete defeat, or surrender and preserve what remains. Our pride will be wounded, but our people may survive." The Valon leader faced the same decision. Her advisors argued fiercely, some calling for continued war, others warning of total collapse. She looked at the stars, where human machines moved with unmatched purpose. At last she spoke, her voice steady. "We cannot win. Not now, not ever, if we continue as before. It is time to choose life over pride." Messages were sent. Fleets were recalled. Weapons were lowered. The two empires, once locked in endless war, hesitated at the brink of decision. The humans did not push, did not demand. They waited patiently, their machines standing as a symbol of strength without tyranny. It was not fear that forced the empires to listen, but respect. Respect for a race that had shown what courage, creativity, and will could accomplish. Finally, the Archon Dominion and the Valon Assembly made their choice. They would end the war. A ceasefire was declared, and negotiators from both sides approached the humans. Across the council chambers, across the burned worlds and broken fleets, a fragile peace began to form. The Serac elder watched from the observation deck of his ship. He whispered to himself, "It took the youngest among us to show the oldest how to survive. The galaxy will remember this day." On the plains of Solora, the human machines lowered their arms. They had fought not with hatred or pride, but with purpose. They had shown that war could be ended not by overwhelming force, but by imagination and courage. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy could breathe. The endless cycle of battle had been broken, not by the strongest or the oldest, but by humanity and their war machines. The humans had not conquered, but they had saved countless worlds. And in doing so, they had earned a place in history that no empire could ever erase. The galaxy had changed. Worlds that had known nothing but war for centuries now experienced the first quiet dawn in generations. Fires were extinguished, armies were withdrawn, and the skies were no longer filled with endless fleets of fighting ships. The Archon Dominion and the Valen Assembly had signed their peace agreements on neutral ground. Delegates from countless species watched as representatives of both empires shook hands, their faces weary but resolute. Pride had not been entirely lost, yet survival and wisdom had won. Both empires understood that the endless war could not continue. In the council chambers, the human envoy spoke once more. His voice was calm, steady, and carried across the assembled delegates. "This war has lasted longer than anyone can measure. Worlds have burned and generations have suffered. Today we show that even the oldest conflicts can be ended, not by conquest, not by domination, but by courage, creativity, and will. Let this day be remembered as the day the cycle of war was broken." Delegates murmured in agreement. Many species who had once lost hope now felt a sense of relief. The Maline raised their hands in respect. The Talari bowed their heads, and even the smallest races celebrated quietly. The humans did not boast of victory. They did not claim lands or demand tribute. Instead, they returned to their machines, standing tall and silent on the plains of Solora. Their presence was a reminder that strength was not only in power, but in purpose and wisdom. The Archon General approached the human envoy. His armor was scratched, his face lined with fatigue, yet his eyes held a new respect. "Your machines, your strategy. Your people have done what we could not. You did not seek glory, yet you have earned it. How did you succeed where we failed for centuries?" The envoy smiled slightly. "We did not rely on pride or tradition. We relied on our minds and our hearts. We do not fight because we must prove ourselves. We fight because the galaxy depends on it. That is why our machines move as they do. And that is why we have broken the cycle." The Valen leader stepped forward as well. Her scales glimmered in the soft light of the neutral world. "We have learned an important lesson. Strength alone does not win wars. Understanding, creativity, and the courage to act are just as powerful. You have shown us a way we never imagined." Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. On worlds once scarred by battle, children laughed in streets that had once been trenches. Farmers returned to fields that had been battlefields. Cities rebuilt themselves where ruins had stood for decades. The cycle of destruction had ended. Human engineers began to leave machines in safe locations across key planets. They did not claim these worlds. Instead, they left their technology as guardians, a reminder that defense and ingenuity could protect without domination. Entire fleets of the galaxy's species came together to learn from humans, not to fight, but to understand and improve their own ways of peacekeeping. The Serac elder observed all this from his ship. He turned to a younger delegate and said, "This is why humans are different. They do not rely on fear or pride. They rely on will, and they act when others cannot. Remember this day. Remember what courage and creativity can do." The Archon and Valen leaders, once locked in endless conflict, now worked together to rebuild what had been lost. Trade routes reopened, communication lines were restored, and scientific research that had been halted for centuries began again. For the first time, collaboration replaced competition, and yet humanity's presence was quiet but powerful. They did not rule, they did not demand tribute, and they did not take control. Their war machines, now standing as symbols across planets, reminded every species of one truth. Even the most hopeless wars can be ended if courage and intelligence guide action. On Solora, the humans gathered one last time before returning to their homeworld. The envoy addressed his people. "We have shown the galaxy what humans can do. We have not conquered, but we have protected. Remember this. Remember why we act. Strength alone is nothing without purpose. Our legacy is not destruction. Our legacy is hope. As they departed, the machines remained quiet and vigilant. Across the stars, the Archon and Valen fleets no longer fought blindly. Across the council chambers and neutral worlds, races remembered the courage of humans who dared to act when no one else could. Generations would tell the story. Children would grow up knowing that humans, though young and small compared to older empires, had changed the galaxy forever, that they had brought machines not to conquer but to protect, that they had ended a war no one else could stop. The stars were finally calm. The cycle of war had been broken, and humanity's name was remembered not as conquerors but as saviors, teachers, and the embodiment of a spirit that refused to accept the impossible. In the quiet of the universe, the legacy of humans shone brighter than any fleet or weapon, a reminder that courage and creativity could reshape the galaxy.